Hello, I'm making this video for students who are absent when we talk about sentence boundaries. So if that's you, watch this video and take notes so that you understand what we're talking about. Success today, as you watch this video, means learning and practicing 3 legal moves for fixing a run-on sentence, 3 of them, and also 1 move to avoid. So 3 legal moves, 1 illegal move. All of that will help you learn to make meaningful grammar decisions in your writing and editing. Not just fix errors, but make decisions that have meaning and are intentional. So here's a sentence. Montag is not truly happy. He lacks meaningful relationships and purpose in his life. This might sound to your ears okay, but maybe it doesn't. What do you think? Is this 1 sentence or 2? We see there's 1 capital at the beginning and 1 period at the end, so that might suggest obviously it's 1 sentence. What is the subject of this sentence and what is the predicate? Subject, Montag. Predicate, is not truly happy. Hold on. Subject might be he. Predicate, lacks meaningful relationships and purpose in life. Or maybe it's just Montag as the subject and all the rest is a predicate. It's hard to tell. Okay, that was a run-on sentence. The definition is 2 or more complete sentences with no proper boundary between them. So when we just have 2 sentences in a row and there's nothing at all separating them, that's a run-on sentence. So there are 3 legal moves for fixing a run-on sentence. Okay, so a run-on would have been what we just saw. Montag is not truly happy. He lacks meaningful relationships. 1 legal move to fix that would be a period. Montag is not truly happy, period. He lacks meaningful relationships, period. Okay, now we have 2 sentences. That's grammatically correct and appropriate. That's fine. Another way is to add a comma and then a FANBOYS word. Now, FANBOYS is an acronym for the coordinating conjunctions, which are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. If you can memorize that, you'll be well off. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And the acronym is FANBOYS. But this is 1 move, comma, and a FANBOYS word. It's not 2 different moves. It's 1 move. So Montag is not truly happy, comma, for he lacks meaningful relationships, right? For means because, essentially. So for is the best one to use here. If you say but, right, that implies that he lacks meaningful relationships is going against Montag is not truly happy, but really they're connected. So for is the best one to use here. So period, comma plus FANBOYS, or a semicolon. Montag is not truly happy. He lacks meaningful relationships, right? Montag is not truly happy, semicolon. He lacks meaningful relationships. That makes much more sense. Quick note, and we'll emphasize this later, joining sentences in a run-on with a comma only, nothing but a comma, that is an illegal move, okay? That's a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today, but let's look at it all in a little more detail, okay? 3 legal moves for fixing a run-on sentence. You have to make decisions. Again, these aren't just grammar fixes that are solving problems, but they're decisions for what is going to be the best way to communicate. So if you see 2 complete sentences, you have 3 legal moves. You should write down everything you see on this slide. So you should write that sentence in your notebook. You could even title your page, 3 legal moves for fixing run-on sentences. That's kind of a long title, but I don't care. So you should write, if I see 2 complete sentences, I have 3 legal moves, right? Number 1, you could add a period, which is what you use when ideas are related but still distinct from one another. You could add a comma and FANBOYS, right? Which is, again, 1 move. You can't just add a comma. You can't just add a FANBOYS move. They go together. Comma plus FANBOYS, when one idea explains the other, and you have to choose which conjunction to use based on how they work together, and we'll talk about that later. Number 3, a semicolon, semicolon, when ideas are closely related, which is optional for now. We'll kind of dive more into that later, right? But when you got 2 ideas and they're really, really closely related, all you need is a semicolon sometimes, okay? So let's look at another example. Mildred watches the parlor walls. She ignores her husband, okay? Grammar is a choice, not just an error fix. So if we end a period, right? Mildred watches the parlor walls, period. She ignores her husband, period. Those are related ideas, but they're not too closely related. That's what the period says. If we say, Mildred watches the parlor walls, comma, and she ignores her husband, that's all in 1 sentence. So we're saying this is 1 idea, right? These things go together. They are connected. If we use a semicolon, Mildred watches the parlor walls, semicolon. She ignores her husband. That tells us that those two ideas are very closely related. And they are, because they go hand in hand. You don't have one without the other. That's what a semicolon communicates. So grammar is a choice that you have to make when you communicate. It's not just fixing errors. Keep this in mind. So we're going to practice. I'm going to give you a few sentences to look at. For each sentence, I want you to first decide, is this one sentence or two sentences? Then, number two, identify the boundary, right? The limit where one sentence should end and the other one should begin. Number three, fix the sentence using one of the legal moves. You can write this stuff down. You can just talk about it. You can do it in your mind if you're watching this alone, but figure out how you might fix them. Here are the sentences. Feel free to pause the video and look at them for a minute. I'm going to keep going in 5 seconds. Okay. Montag believes he is happy. Later, he realizes he is not. You should split it between happy and later. Montag believes he is happy. Later, he realizes he's not. I might even say, Montag believes he is happy, but later he realizes he is not. I would probably use comma and but in that one. Because it's one idea that when I'm writing about it, I want to communicate, it started out this way and it changed later. But shows a contrast, right? These things are not the same. Number two, people think technology makes them happy. It actually isolates them, right? I would say people think technology makes them happy, comma, yet it actually isolates them. Yet, I think, is a great conjunction because it means but surprisingly. So anytime you would say but surprisingly, you could just use yet instead, right? People think technology makes them happy, yet it actually isolates them. I think a semicolon would also work here as well. I mean, they would all work. All three solutions would work, but my preference would be comma and yet, right? Again, it's just all about the way you want to communicate, what ideas you're really trying to say. Mildred watches TV all day. She calls it her family. I would probably add a period to that one. Mildred watches TV all day, period. She calls it her family. I would also probably edit the word it, right? Tell me what it is. She doesn't call the TV her family. She calls the people on TV her family, right? So some clarity is needed there. So I'd probably use a period between those two because watching all day is not necessarily the same thing as calling the TV people her family. So I would separate those. Number four, Clarice asks questions. She notices the world around her. Clarice asks questions, period. She notices the world around her, period. That's how I would probably do it. I'd probably be listing things about Clarice. She asks questions. She notices the world around her. She's curious, right? Maybe I would do semicolon. She asks questions, semicolon. She notices the world around her, semicolon. She's curious, period. I might throw all three of those together even. But again, we got options. We got to make decisions based on what we're trying to say. Number five, Montag keeps books in his house. This shows curiosity. That one, now that sentence, this shows curiosity at the end, is a crappy sentence because it starts with this and it's unclear, right? I would probably, because of that, keep it as one sentence, not split it into two. Otherwise, my second sentence needs significant revising. Montag keeps books in his house, comma, and this shows curiosity. I would use and because we're adding on to the first idea. Because I could just say he keeps books in his house, but going with that, built into that is showing curiosity, right? This and shows are pretty crappy words. I would probably say, comma, which reveals an inner curiosity or a suppressed curiosity or something. I wouldn't really write like this, but if these were the sentences I had and I didn't want to rewrite, there's some good editing I can do to make them better. So I hope that all makes sense. I hope my explanations of why I would make those decisions also make sense. Hopefully you can make these decisions and also explain why those are the best decisions. Let's pause for a minute, talk about FANBOYS, the coordinating conjunctions. Okay, so you should definitely write these things in your notes because we got period, comma in FANBOYS, semicolon. Those are our three legal moves we're talking about. As I showed you for a moment before, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so are the FANBOYS, the coordinating conjunctions. Let's look at each of them. For, as I mentioned quickly earlier, essentially just means because. You use this one when the second clause explains the first, or the second sentence in one sentence, second part of a run-on sentence that's actually supposed to be a full sentence, when the second part explains the first part. So I would again say, Montag is unhappy, for he has no meaningful relationships. Having no meaningful relationships is the reason he's unhappy, right? So I could say he's unhappy because he has no meaningful relationships, but for works just as well. And means also. You, I'm sure, know what and means. You have these two clauses, they're equal, they go with each other. You almost can't have one without the other, right? I like hot dogs and I like ketchup and mustard, right? How could you have a hot dog without ketchup and mustard, right? Mildred ignores her husband and she watches TV all day, right? Those two things are like peas in a pod. So you got to have and because they go together. They work together to create one idea. Nor, the best way to think of this, I think, is negative or not or, right? It's like or, but with an n in front of it, showing this negative, right? You have equal clauses that are both in the negative. And there's a weird rule with nor where we have to form the second part like a question, right? So I would say, Montag is not happy. Mildred is not happy. If those are my two clauses, I would say Montag is not happy, nor Mildred is not happy. No, that doesn't make sense. I would say Montag is not happy, nor is Mildred happy. And you notice is Mildred happy is phrased like a question, but I'm actually making a statement. Montag is not happy, comma, nor is Mildred happy. So that's a weird rule, but nor means negative or, right? It's like and because they're equal clauses, but they're both in the negative. They're agreeing with each other. You're saying these two things are on the same level, but I'm talking about what they aren't. I hope that makes sense. But means however, right? The second clause contradicts the first. So I would say Clarice is happy, however, Mildred is not, right? Clarice is happy, comma, but Mildred is not, period. That makes one full sentence. That's great. Clarice is happy, but Mildred is not. The second one goes against the first. I'm showing a contrast here. And Mildred being unhappy doesn't contradict Clarice being happy, so maybe contradict is not the best word. I bet contrasts would be a better word there. Or gives you two options. Here's another option. You got to choose between the two options. You either turn off the TV or you have a bad marriage. Mildred must turn off the TV or she will risk ruining her marriage. Right. We got option one, option two. Yet, as I mentioned earlier, means but surprisingly. The second clause is unexpected after the first. He had no coat on in January, yet he was not cold. You would expect someone to be cold if they have no coat on and it's January. He had no coat on, yet he was cold. Yet he was not cold. He had no coat on, but surprisingly, he was not cold. That's what yet means. So is basically because in reverse. So if we look at our for sentence, Montag is unhappy, for he has no meaningful relationships. We could flip it and say, Montag has no meaningful relationships, so he is unhappy, right? What I'm doing is saying A, so B, when A explains B. But if I say B for A is still explaining B, but it's in the backwards order. That was probably more confusing than helpful, but so is because in reverse. So I'm going to pause this again for 5 seconds. Well, I'm just going to be silent. Feel free to pause this. Figure out which coordinating conjunction from the list of fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, would fit into these blanks the best. Take 5 seconds. Ready, set, go. Now, when I said take 5 seconds, hopefully you paused it. I didn't want you to figure this all out in 5 seconds, but pause it, look at it. Here we go. I forgot to set my alarm, so I was late for school. The first one explains the second, right? So is the best one. I could say I was late for school, for I forgot to set my alarm, if I flip it around, because remember, for and so are opposites. They do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. Second one, she wanted to go swimming, but the water was far too cold. That contrasts her desire. Those things go against each other. He packed a lunch, blank, he brought extra snacks for the trip. What do you think? If you said and, I agree with you. He packed a lunch and he brought extra snacks for the trip. We're probably talking about the two things this guy did, right? It adds on. He packed a lunch and also extra snacks. The argument sounded convincing. Blank, its main evidence was based on a false assumption. Now that's surprising to me if an argument sounds convincing, so I might go with yet. I think but would work just as well here. The argument sounded convincing, yet its main evidence was based on a false assumption. Yet or but would work for this one, but I might say yes. Or I might say yet. It just depends on the context around this one sentence, though. We can watch a movie at home, or we can go out to the theater. Got two options. She didn't apologize after the mistake, but she did try to fix the problem. Right? Yet might also work. She didn't apologize after the mistake, yet she did try to fix the problem. We see sounds like she's arrogant, yet she did humble herself a little bit, right? Whoever she is. So yet might make more sense, but might make more sense. Just depends on what's going on. The instructions were unclear. Blank. Several students completed the task incorrectly. Ooh, the second one is explaining is a result of the first, right? The first one explains the second one. So if I look back here, and so the first explains the second, so I know so. The instructions were unclear. So several students completed the task incorrectly. If you said for, you're going the wrong direction. He likes math, but his sister enjoys art more, right? Those are contrasting ideas. The solution appeared risky, yet it succeeded beyond everyone's expectations, right? I might say yet there because it's surprising. A solution that appears risky, you don't think it's going to succeed. So it's surprising when it does. The solution appeared risky, but surprisingly, it succeeded beyond everyone's expectations. So yet works best for that one. You can submit the assignment online, or you can turn in a paper copy. You got two options. So or works the best. The device uses no batteries, but does it require? Not but. I went too fast. I didn't think. The device uses no batteries, nor does it require an external power source, right? So here we see nor in action, how the second part sounds like a sentence. The device uses no batteries, nor does it require an external power source. So we're talking about two things that this device does not need or require. Again, nor. That's a great example of nor. I wore a jacket for it was cold outside. For makes the most sense because it was cold outside is explaining the reason I wore a jacket, right? I wore a jacket because it was cold outside. Now, because is not in the list of coordinating conjunctions because that actually creates a subordinate clause and you don't use a comma. So I wore a jacket because it was cold outside, no comma, or I wore a jacket, comma, for it was cold outside. They mean the same thing, but they have different roles. That's complicated. You'll probably learn that in high school. But for now, this is what we got. So for fixing on a run-on sentence, period, semicolon, I've changed the order here, comma plus fanboys. Remember, this is one move. If you just use a comma without adding any of those fanboys words, with no conjunction, you get what we call a comma splice. A comma splice. You should definitely write this down. It is the most common error that I see 8th graders make when it comes to making a complete sentence. So a comma splice is when you illegally join two sentences together using just a comma. But the truth is a comma can't join two sentences by itself. It can't fix a run-on all alone. It needs help. It's not strong enough. So it needs a fanboys word, otherwise it becomes an error. So if the sentence below, which you should write down, is this: if both sides can stand alone, a comma by itself is illegal, right? That is the rule you must write down. If both sides can stand alone as a complete sentence, a comma by itself is illegal. Now, if you're saying both sides of what? Both sides of a run-on sentence, because remember, a run-on sentence is two sentences, or what should be two sentences, that are just put next to each other with no proper boundary, no period, semicolon, or comma plus fanboys. So if you have just a comma, it's called a comma splice, and it's illegal. It's an error. Let's look at an example. TV is bad for people. It hurts relationships. That probably sounds right to your ears, but grammatically it's an error, right? So write the sentence above in your notebook. Feel free to pause it if you need to. But then next to it, write comma splice error. Very big, very obvious, next to that sentence, right? This is an error. This is an illegal move. TV is bad for people, comma, it hurts relationships, period. Wrong, wrong-o, terrible. We need to add a fanboys word. TV is bad for people, for it hurts relationships. TV is bad for people, and it hurts relationships. Either of those are going to be great. So rewrite this sentence about TV, but fix it using a legal move. Right? We could do a comma, we could do a semicolon, we could add a fanboys word, a conjunction after that comma, but pick one and fix it in your notebook and Make note of that. Be sure to make note of the fact that this comma alone thing is an error. Some edits that work well for this sentence, whatever you pick. TV is bad for people, period. It hurts relationships, period. Awesome. TV is bad for people, for it hurts relationships. TV is bad for people, semicolon, it hurts relationships. Great, we got two ideas very closely related. That's the beauty of the semicolon, right? Is it's basically whatever you're trying to do with a comma, you should be doing with a semicolon because they're very related ideas and you want them in one sentence, but you can use a semicolon for that. Again, for works and works, either one of those work. Because also works, but again, we wouldn't use a comma for that one. There's a practice worksheet. If you're in class, I'll give it to you. If you're not in class, come ask me and I'll give it to you. But if you can do that worksheet correctly, you'll do well on the quiz. And we'll talk about the worksheet before we do the quiz. So it's not like I'm just going to say, here's a paper, do it. And hopefully you got it right. And hopefully that helps you on the quiz. No, we'll talk about it so that if you don't do it right, you'll know you didn't do it right and you'll know why, and we'll go over it. So if you're watching this video, you probably are watching it because you weren't here in class and you don't have a paper. So come get one from me. If you were here and you didn't get one for some reason, come talk to me. If you were here and you're just watching this again for review, I love that. Come talk to me if you need help with any of this stuff. There will be a quiz on it. Otherwise, see you soon.